This show, we help you navigate the pile of bullshit that's being heaved on you from the mainstream media and help you navigate all of that right now to try to bring you the truth with some excellent experts that we will have here on the show, because CENTCOM now says that more than 10,000 U.S. sailors, Marines, airmen are now involved in this massive blockade in the Middle East. We're going to talk about what this looks like, how many Iranian ships have already gotten through this blockade. Is it a total waste of time? And is this an admission that President Trump is trapped? We're going to dive deep into that today.
Well, beyond just a waste of time, is it a danger for our American soldiers? Why are they there? So, we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about more missing scientists, missing UFO scientists. The number continues to mount. So we're going to talk about that as well.
We are, A 10th scientist has now gone missing. Officially confirmed this happened back in August, but we're now just learning about it under very mysterious circumstances, all connected to Los Alamos and NASA and what is going on with these missing scientists. It reminds me a lot of the 22 or so missing during the Star Wars program that suddenly vanished. So is this a U.S.-China operation? Who exactly knows? We're going to dive deep today with Jay Anderson on the show about that. And then also we're going to talk about the economy, because I don't know if you noticed, but on April 10th, some big Wall Street types, the same types who bet against the collapsing housing market back in 2008, quietly started a new vehicle to bet against the U.S. economy, and it went into effect on April 10th. What exactly, why is no one talking about this? And what does this actually mean for the U.S. economy? And what are they betting on? We're going to talk about that today with a revered economist on the show. But first, we want to tell you about our friends at Neos Capital, because this week, guys, you guys got to sign up for this. We had a lot of Redacted viewers sign up for the last live free webinar about a month ago, and some of you wrote and sent emails and said you absolutely loved it. Some of you guys were like stock traders for years and said this was the best one you've ever been to. So thank you for that. Thank you for the great feedback. But right now, we've talked about the old world order breaking down. Now even Ray Dalio says it's here. After Munich, the Munich Security Conference, he said the post-1945 system is over. The whole Bretton Woods system has collapsed. We are entering stage 6 of what he calls the next big cycle, the war stage. And that's what we're seeing right now. And when the world changes fast, money doesn't just disappear, it moves. That's why I want to tell you about our sponsor, Neos Capital, and their free live event this week called the 2026 Freedom Summit. And I recently had Neo's president on the show, Mark Wilburn, and he broke down the risks, the opportunities, and where families should be doing right now to protect themselves and to grow their wealth. And he can teach it to all of you for free. Reserve your spot right now. Just go to 2026freedom.com, or you can scan that QR code on the screen. And there's only like a limited number of availability in the software for viewers. So sign up. Again, totally free. There's 2 choices, the 2 events, 2 different times that you can pick from. 2026freedom.com, scan there on the screen, or just go right to the website if you want to. All right. So let us know in the chat room where you guys are joining us from today. By the way, get in any of your super chats and Rumble rants. We'll try to answer them. We'll try to ask them here of our next guests. So please, any kind of good questions you have about the relevant topic, about the Strait of Hormuz and where this thing is headed, please get those comments in right now. All right. Well, CENTCOM says that more than 10,000 U.S. sailors, Marines, and airmen, along with over a dozen warships and dozens of aircraft, are executing the mission to blockade ships entering and departing Iranian ports. And during the first 24 hours, no ships made it past the U.S. blockade. 6 merchant vessels complied with direction from the U.S. forces to turn around and re-enter an Iranian port in the Gulf of Oman. There are other reports that 2 Iranian sanctioned ships by the United States have now made it through. Another Panamanian ship also getting through. So a lot of differing stories about what's getting through and what's getting blocked around all of this. That's why we wanted to bring in today former UN weapons inspector Scott Ritter, who has obviously been following this very, very closely, to talk all about this.
Scott's not quite here yet, so maybe we can talk about what we're seeing here, these other naval blockade ports. And what we're looking at here is where the actual Strait of Hormuz is, where Iran has actually shut down the Strait of Hormuz, and what the United States can actually do there. Now, I think what the U.S. plan was to block at the opening of the strait, and so we are getting mixed reports about who can and cannot pass. And, comically, the Iranian embassies have posted, this is not social media. You can't block someone who's blocked you. That's not really how this works. So the question that we're asking, and that we have been asking since the weekend began, is how can you do that? And is it a danger? Are you prepared to follow up these words with firepower, which I don't think anybody wants, because we are still in a ceasefire.
Yeah, that was my concern, was like, so what happens? What if somebody's just like, nah, screw it, we're going anyway? What are we going to do? Like shoot a merchant vessel out of the water? Like, really?
Right.
That's piracy.
Right. Exactly. This is something Iran has said, is like, you will be in deadly whirlpools, that, you cannot test this. It does not seem like, there has been major firepower, but the mere threat of it is a serious threat. Right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, how effective this will actually be, who knows, and whether Iran will comply with it. Already threats, of course, against other U.S. ships. And how much time we have left in this whole ceasefire agreement, just a few more days in the ceasefire agreement. If you look at Polymarket, like, I don't know where these people get their data, but like Polymarket right now is trading, like, people are betting that tomorrow, by April 15th, this entire conflict ends.
What?
People are
under
with
what
a
pretense?
75% chance that this is all done tomorrow. What world are they living in?
Right.
I mean,
done for who, though? Because
the conflict is over. The Iran, Israel, U.S. Conflict ends tomorrow. On the 15th
certainly not for Lebanon. There is nothing at this moment that seems to be stopping Israel from its continued assault on Lebanon. There is plenty of world condemnation, strongly worded tweets and letters attached to said tweets, but it does not appear that Israel is going to stop in any form or fashion in Lebanon. It's interesting that this has continued to raise awareness about what happened and what is continuing to happen in Gaza, because the ceasefire is still being violated inside Gaza. And again, the rhetoric online is, well, there's Hezbollah. Hezbollah is there. And so they need to do this. But something Clayton posted on his X last night, you're not going to get rid of Hezbollah by bulldozing a building. Other buildings exist. Like, what is the purpose of that?
I don't know. Exactly. Let us know in the comments if you have any questions. We can put them up on the screen here. We're just waiting for Scott to dial in here.
There he is.
Is Scott here yet?
I see his face.
Sorry. Thank you for your patience, everyone. The audience anticipating and waiting and waiting and waiting.
Okay. Well, let's get to Scott then. Let's ask him. Scott, thank you so much for joining us today. What is your sense of how much the United States will escalate if the blockade is not holding, which it does not seem like it is? Do you think it can do anything? Is there any there?
Well, I mean, of course, there's something there. If the United States wanted to resume the pattern of behavior that they had been undertaking prior to the ceasefire, then they can send airplanes in to bomb Iran ineffectively, and they can sit back and absorb Iranian missiles as the Iran continues to destroy, billions of dollars of U.S. infrastructure. They can keep their Navy away from Iranian shores because the Iranian missiles would threaten to sink the ships. And they can be humiliated on the world stage as they prove yet again that they're incapable of defeating Iran militarily in a conventional fight. So this is why they're not going to do that. The United States is looking for an off-ramp. It just has to be a politically acceptable off-ramp. You know, and I know, and pretty much everybody in the world knows that this blockade is a joke. It was always going to be a joke. But it allows the president to posture. It allows the president to say that he has done something decisive. And then the next thing is for the president to say that because of his decisive behavior, the Iranians have reached out and they want to have negotiations. Now, we know that Iran hasn't reached out. It's the United States reaching out to Pakistan, but their president will spin it the way he wants. And I think on Thursday, you're going to see a resumption of negotiations because the United States has no option. They've reached the cap of their conventional escalation capabilities. There's nothing left for them to bomb. They don't know what to bomb. What they were bombing wasn't effective. So there's no sense in them continuing this.
So CENTCOM saying more than 10,000 U.S. sailors, Marines, airmen, dozen warships, dozens of aircraft are all involved in this operation, turning ships around. How effective will that be? What do you see the Iranian response to this? Or how do you see the Iranians' response to this?
Well, first of all, you have to understand that the majority of Iranian shipping has already left the Strait of Hormuz and the Indian Ocean, is out around the world. They've loaded a whole bunch of oil up on tankers, and because of sanctions, they were unable to, offload that oil. So that oil is out there right now, and it's being offloaded because there's high demand for oil right now. And so, this isn't going to have any impact on Iran at all. China, Russia, India, and other nations have told the United States to pound sand. I challenged CENTCOM to prove one instance of them boarding a Chinese vessel and turning it around. They're not. They won't touch them. And I also asked what these 10,000 sailors, airmen, Marines are doing to the ships that just skirt the Iranian coast. Okay, so you come out of the Strait of Hormuz. We know the United States Navy is not in the Strait of Hormuz because they'll be sunk. So the ships come out of the Strait of Hormuz, and what happens if they, just skirt the Iranian coast? What's the United States going to do? Send its vaunted Navy in to challenge shipping on Iran's coastline? No, they'll get sunk. So, this is just pure posturing. There's nothing real about this blockade. Plus, I need to point out that a blockade is an act of war. The last time I checked, the United States hadn't declared war against Iran. It was a military operation. Now there's a ceasefire. So I think the United States is going to have to come up with a different term to describe what they're doing. I think it's called just sailing around in circles.
Okay. It's a pleasure cruise, really.
Yeah.
I want to ask you about the negotiation about nuclear, because the president just keeps screaming Iran can never have a nuke. I mean, we never had proof that they did, but Iranian officials are saying, we just are not going to let them tell us that we can't use nuclear power. We are not going to let them tell us what to do anymore. If they're uncomfortable with our uranium, they can come and inspect it. This has always been the case. But we continue to move the football. So what is the stage of the negotiation about a nuclear weapon at this point? And I want to tie this in because I was reading something over the weekend about chemical weapons, because Iran had the technology to have chemical weapons when they were attacked by Iraq in the Gulf War, or in the 80s rather, and refused to use them. So maybe you can tell us about what you know about whether or not Iran has a nuclear reactor or a nuclear bomb, what they're doing with their uranium, because you've said many times they should not have enriched to 60. It was antagonized. It antagonized us. So can you give us a state on that?
Well, sure. We know that Iran does not have a nuclear weapons program. They never had a nuclear weapons program. There's no evidence to sustain any allegation that they've had a nuclear weapons program. All evidence that's been put on the table in that regard have been shown to be fabricated. Remember in 2018, the Israelis launched some sort of famous attack, a raid on Tehran, where they broke into a facility and stole documents. And then they did that in early 2018. And then they went to Donald Trump and they showed Donald Trump the documents. And Donald Trump said, this is proof they're cheating. And he withdrew from the JCPOA because he only takes instructions from Israel. But the interesting thing is, when these documents, some of them were made public, it turns out that these documents had already been previously submitted by the Israelis to the International Atomic Energy Agency back in 2004 and were shown to be outright fabrications, forgeries. And that's the reality of the Israeli case against Iran. It's 100% fabricated, consisting of forged documents or documents that are taken out of context. There is no Iranian nuclear weapons program, never has been, and there never will be, because Iran doesn't want a nuclear weapon. They've made that quite clear. It's not just that they don't want it, but it's also incompatible with their religious beliefs. There are, fatwas or religious edicts that have been passed by the first two supreme leaders that said no to this. As you pointed out, the Iranians are serious about this, because even when Iraq was using chemical weapons against Iranian troops, inflicting serious casualties on these troops, Iran never responded in kind, saying that chemical weapons, weapons of mass destruction in general, are against Islamic jurisprudence. So, it's not that that they say one thing and do another. They're consistent all along. I have pointed out that 60% enriched uranium is a provocation. I asked the Iranian president straight to his face, why did you do it? Because it makes it look like you're moving towards a nuclear weapon. And what his foreign minister answered, and after talking to him, Aragchi said, we're doing it so that we have negotiating leverage. The world has to take us seriously, because right now the United States doesn't. They just say 0, 0, 0, 0, and the Iranians are saying you don't get to say 0. So the idea was to have this so that there would be a card to play, so that they can retain enrichment, but not enrich to a level they've demonstrated they have. And this seems to be backed up, because prior to this most recent round of conflict starting on February 28th, the Iranians had met extensively with Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff, and where they basically agreed to get rid of their 60% enriched uranium, and also agree that they would never again enrich, that there would be inspections that would limit the enrichment to 3.75%, which is the enrichment level needed for fuel used in the Bushehr nuclear reactor. Iran has an inherent right under the Nuclear Nonproliferation Treaty to possess the totality of the nuclear fuel cycle, inclusive of enrichment. The United States and Israel do not get to dictate things that deviate from the treaty. And this is what Iran is saying. There will be no Iran exception to the treaty. Iran will do what Iran is allowed to do under Article 4 of the NPT. But Iran will agree, I believe, and if the United States would agree to low levels of enrichment, Iran would agree to close the door on higher levels of enrichment, to limit the number of cascades they have, to limit the amount of nuclear material that would be accumulated, and do so without any sunset clauses, so that these limitations would become permanent. And that's how you get out of this nuclear issue. But the problem is Israel refuses to allow Iran to have a nuclear enrichment program. It's somewhat ironic, since Israel is neither a signatory to the Nuclear Nonproliferation Treaty and they possess nuclear weapons. Yes. It's stunning that the United States and the world continues to even listen to what Israel has to say on this issue. This is the easiest part of the negotiation if the United States would just use common sense. Allow Iran to enrich uranium to 3.75%, do so under the supervision of International Atomic Energy Agency inspectors, and Iran will agree that all pathways to enrichment at a higher level will be shut down. Therefore, there is no pathway to a bomb. Therefore, there is no potential of a nuclear weapon. Therefore, Donald Trump gets to say that he has a better deal than the JCPOA. This is how you get out of it, and this is what I believe is the direction they'll be going.
Do you think that President Trump is trapped? And yesterday, Tucker Carlson in an interview said that President Trump is a slave to Benjamin Netanyahu. And when challenged on it, he followed it up with, clearly he doesn't want to do this. He's being pushed to do this, and he has no choice but to do it. So do you think that he's trapped?
I'm thinking, okay, are we allowed to say this? We are up against major filters.
Are we allowed to say this? I'm sorry.
No, but this... What's interesting is we can designate kill lists of terrorists as long as they are Muslim. We can do that. We do it. Obama did it every Tuesday. He had Taco Tuesday, where he was given baseball cards of who he decided to kill. And if I were to say, okay, let's kill this, who I think is whatever opposition leader, Palestinian leader, I could absolutely say that. Hey, let's kill that guy. I could say, let's kill Osama bin Laden. I could say that. Absolutely, right? We could say that. What the filters now are is, who we can and cannot target. And so I think it's worth pointing out,
what's interesting,
the contradiction.
Again, I'm being a little bit, extreme. Of course, we don't hunt down and kill Benjamin Netanyahu. He's the leader of a sovereign state, but we don't let him do this either. But I want to make the following point. The International Criminal Court, when they seek to hold Americans accountable to the rule of law, to international law, we passed a law that basically said if an American ends up under their jurisdiction, we can send the United States military in to recover them. Why? Because we don't allow other nations or entities to hold jurisdiction over us. And yet this is what Netanyahu is doing. He's holding jurisdiction over us. And this is a national security threat to the United States of America, one that cannot be tolerated. And you're 100% right. If we had there's, to give you an example, there's talk that Muammar Gaddafi had the goods on Sarkozy back in 2010 or so, because Sarkozy, a corrupt individual that he was taking Libyan gold and Libyan money to finance his campaign, and then, felt threatened by that Libya having that knowledge. So Sarkozy helped cook up the invasion of Libya and the elimination of Gaddafi. So it happens. It happens when people have the goods on you. You sometimes will hunt them down and take that. Why do you think Manuel Noriega is in prison for I think he might not be alive right now, but because he had the goods on us. Manuel Noriega knew all the secrets, so we made sure that he could never tell the secrets to anybody. Yeah. Benjamin Netanyahu has the secrets. So what do we do to people who have the secrets?
Yeah.
I mean, at the very least, can we do what we did to the president of Venezuela? Can we put him on trial inside our own country for whatever corruption that we know the Justice Department has?
Right. Can we have a Nuremberg style trial where we actually get to the bottom of this?
Yeah. Can we have him here? At least can we go and get him and keep him here? No, he comes here and he gets the red carpet. And if you saw
dirty laundry, and we do his dirty laundry.
Right. Literally. Yeah.
No, literally. He comes in with his dirty laundry and makes the State Department do his dirty laundry. The State Department needs to burn his laundry, burn his airplane, and arrest him on the spot. I mean, this man insults America on a daily basis. This is a man who brags to his Jewish constituents how he owns America, how he owns the American Congress. Listen to me, America. This is a Jewish leader in Israel bragging about how he owns the United States Congress, your House, your representative. He says he owns them. He can make them do anything he wants, and apparently he can. And apparently he owns the presidency as well. For all the MAGA people out there, my God, you've surrendered. The second you say we support Israel, you've surrendered. You don't support the United States anymore. You support a foreign entity. And if you're not MAGA, if you're just an American patriot, this is intolerable.
Yeah, I mean, every American patriot I know is furious about this. I mean, I get texts all day from people all over the country. I mean, it's anecdotal, of course, right? But it is absolutely indicative of the feeling that people, individuals who may, voted for President Trump, who are absolutely furious about being sold out to Israel. Scott, I guess we'll get you out of here on this. On the Strait of Hormuz, over the next 48 hours or so, just militarily, what do you see happening from the U.S. side and the Iranian side, maybe over the next 48 hours, 72 hours?
I don't think Iran cares. They're already they're doing the tolls. They're collecting their money. No ship goes through there without paying money to Iran. They're shipping their own ships. Iranian tankers are leaving. They're skirting the coast. The United States will never touch them. Chinese tankers are leaving. The United States will never touch them. Russian tankers are leaving. The United States will never touch them. We may pick on some tanker from Trinidad and Tobago, because we're the United States. Why not? Do something. We'll put Navy SEALs on board, and we'll take photographs, and we'll show everybody how tough we are, how we took down this tanker that violated everything. But the bottom line is the Pakistani prime minister is saying we got to have these negotiations. We got to restart them. And they're talking about Thursday. And you got Donald Trump saying, yeah, maybe we'll go back. Because the United States, Trump knows the longer this, right now, there's still enough, oxygen thieves in the MAGA industry, the mouth breathers out there on social media who will post, how this is genius 5D chess. And, Donald Trump is the greatest thing in the world. He's Christ, apparently. And that he has reached down and he has touched the Strait of Hormuz and everything is good. And for the next couple of days, they can sell this lie. But very soon, it'll just be exposed as a lie. And this president needs to end this blockade as soon as possible and move on to negotiations. He can claim all he wants that the only reason why he received that phone call from the Pakistani president was that the blockade was working so well and everybody's scared to death of the might of America. Let him sell it the way he wants. I mean, he's been lying to us since day one. Just go ahead and accept more lies. I don't care what lies he tells as long as we end up at the negotiating table on Thursday in Pakistan, in Islamabad, and we bring this thing to a close. According to the Iranians, we were this close. close. The Islamabad Memorandum of Understanding was about to be signed when Benjamin Netanyahu made his magic phone calls. Again, I want to remind the American people of that. The United States decided they were ready to, come this close to ending this war when Benjamin Netanyahu called and said, no, you're not, because we're not ready to let you. We're taking direction from the Prime Minister of Israel, and it's to the detriment of the national security of the United States and global peace and security.
Real quick question here from True Texan. You can put this up on the screen. True Texan asks you, Scott, can Iran not buy enriched uranium or a weapon? Thank you for that super chat.
Well, if it's easy to buy a weapon, I think people have done it by now. So since there's no recorded instance of somebody buying a weapon, I would say that probably exists in the minds of Hollywood screenwriters as opposed to reality. Enriched uranium, again, it's a highly controlled substance. That has to be handled very carefully. There are limited instances on the black market where, radioactive materials in small quantities have been, put out there. Many of them were sting operations, so it's not as though there's loose nukes out there. But now you're missing the point with your question. It doesn't matter what's possible. Iran doesn't want to. Iran doesn't seek to. There's no evidence that Iran has been trying to do anything of this nature. First of all, why would Iran seek to purchase enriched uranium? They have built their own uranium enrichment process, which they're very proud of. This is something that the United States and Europe said we didn't want Iran to be able to do. Israel insisted that Iran not be allowed to do this, and Iran, despite all that, was able to build using its own capabilities, its own engineering, to build a highly effective uranium enrichment program. They don't need to buy it from anywhere. They have their own capabilities.
Did you know that in 1976, Washington offered the Shah the technology to extract bomb-grade plutonium from spent reactor fuel, which would have... So there was a time when we backed the Shah when we wanted them to have enriched uranium and all the tools. But then when they overthrew the Shah, Washington went to Iran and tried to kill the protesters to see if the Carter administration had the stomach to can we tamp down this revolution? Can we make it stop? Can we kill them? So how times have changed. We are not consistent when it comes to Iran. We've only made them an enemy because Israel wanted us to.
Yeah, the interesting thing is there's all these people today who call themselves Iranian experts who say Iran is an oil-producing country. Why do they need nuclear power? My God, why? You see, it's a scam. They don't need nuclear power. They have energy. They have oil. Why? This civilian use. I'm like, yeah, but when they first made that argument back in 1975, it was the Shah that made the argument. And what the Shah said is, we are a industrializing nation. We are modernizing. And the more we modernize, the more energy we will consume. And the more energy we consume domestically means the less energy available for sale on the foreign markets where we derive the bulk of our income. So in order to maximize over time our ability to earn money, we want to create a nuclear power capability that provides energy for our domestic use, liberating the energy for sale abroad. This is 1975. And the Ford administration said, genius, we love it, we support it. And then they turned on, as you said, and said, we'll give you the totality, give you access to the totality of the nuclear enrichment and nuclear fuel cycle to include reprocessing. Because that's what they're talking about. They're talking about taking spent nuclear fuel rods and reprocessing them. And what you do is you extract the plutonium. Now, that doesn't mean that Iran would keep the plutonium. Iran would then sell the plutonium to the United States for disposal. But the point is, we were saying, no, the Iranians can have all of the technology, just like Brazil and Japan have all of the technology. But then the Iranian Revolution came in, and we suddenly decided they can have no technology, and actively block them in total violation of the Nuclear Nonproliferation Treaty. Nothing we have done with Iran is legal. Nothing we have done with Iran is legal.
Well, some person in our chat says, Scott was a former UN weapons inspector. He knows more than demented Trump. Somebody else says, thank you, Scott, for speaking the truth. We love Scott for speaking the truth. Thank you, Scott, for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Thanks very much for having me.
Yeah.
Always a pleasure. Thanks, Scott.
All right.
All right.
Well, what did you think of that?
There's nothing to disagree with.
Yeah.
I mean, what's there to disagree with?
Nothing. We're just like, oh, can we say this? Like, we really do. I mean, yeah, we want Netanyahu on trial. We want him.
Yeah, I think he's a war criminal.
Well, yeah, and also the context I think that got missed in that was like that was if they are blackmailing the president of the United States, like
right.
I think that like that kind of got missed in there, but yeah,
right.
that context
that is terrorism.
If what Tucker Carlson said was true, and I believe it is, I mean, I've known Tucker for years. There's nothing I disagree with him on, very little. And I think if what he said is true, and there is blackmailing going on, much the same way that Bill Clinton was blackmailed by the Israelis with Monica Lewinsky and more, absolutely, that this should be brought out into the public.
Yes.
100%.
Absolutely.
All right, we've got a lot more news to get to here. 10 missing scientists, and people related to Los Alamos, National Laboratories, NASA. What the hell is going on? Last week when we did our big update story, there was 9. Now we have 10 confirmed. How many more will we find out about who just like wander out of the house one afternoon, don't bring their car keys, don't bring their phone, just wander off and are never heard from again? Some of them walking away with a gun, some of them just walking away and disappearing. 2-star generals of the United States. So another one now, 10th. We're going to talk about that. Very excited to have Jay Anderson on the show. You might have just seen him on the Joe Rogan show, and Jay is going to join us here in moments to talk about that. But first,
we want to tell you about our friends at Quo, because if you're always looking for ways to stop leaving money on the table, well, then you need to think about missed calls. A missed call is money out the door. So if you're running a business, you know how this goes. You're busy, your team is busy, suddenly messages get missed, calls don't get returned, and opportunities disappear. That's why our episode is brought to you by Quo, that's spelled Q-U-O. It's the smarter way to run your business communications. What I like about Quo is that your entire team can handle calls and texts from one shared number. So no more scattered conversations or who followed up on this. Everyone sees the full thread, which means faster replies and much better experience for your customers. It works wherever you are, on your phone, on your computer. You can keep your existing number and you can add teammates easily. Everything stays organized in one place, and it's smart. Quo's AI call log summarizes conversations, highlights next steps, so nothing falls through the cracks, even when you're offline. So make this the season where no opportunity, no customer slips away. Try Quo for free, plus get 20% off your first 6 months when you go to quo.com/redacted. Again, that's QUO.com/redacted. No missed calls, no missed customers. We also want to tell you about Upwork, because if you are running a business, scaling your business takes the right expertise at the right time.
We've been using Upwork for what?
Years.
Like
more
years.
than 10 years.
Like
at
10
least
years?
a decade. Yeah. We have several team members that have worked with us through Upwork because it helps growing teams, and you can bring in specialized freelancers so you can move faster, take the business to the next level. Hiring shouldn't be a headache or a drain on your budget. Upwork makes it easy to hire specialized freelancers quickly, either for temporary jobs or more longer-term jobs. They have the expertise that you need without weeks of recruiting or full-time hiring. It is the fastest-growing business tool that you want. So go to Upwork.com. You can connect with top talent ready to help your business grow. Again, it's free to sign up. Posting a job is easy. Start to see who is out there for you. Visit Upwork.com right now. Post your job for free. One more time, that's Upwork, UPWORK.com. And again, find the top talent out there.
And then there were 10 missing scientists tied to NASA and Los Alamos, found either dead or missing. Nearly all of them worked together in some capacity and died or vanished within the last 2 years. Take a look at this. This was published by the Daily Mail today, and we'll get to all of these and sort of their connections here in a moment. There's Frank Mywald, died in July of 2024, no autopsy. Carl Grillmar shot in February of 2026. Michael Hicks died July of 2023. The cause of his death is still hidden. Monica Reyes literally vanished in front of people. I mean, remarkably on a hike just vanished almost out of thin air, it seems, in June of 2025. Melissa Casillas vanished in June of 2025. Anthony Chavez vanished in May of 2025. Two-star General William McCaslin, who also had connections to Monica Reyes, suddenly vanished in February of 2026, just left the house. Now, Stephen Garcia, now confirmed missing. So we have this confirmation. Here is Stephen Garcia, 48 years old, vanished without a trace in August of 2025. So as these pieces are now coming together, we're figuring this out. Here he is, last seen in Albuquerque, New Mexico, carrying only a handgun, left his keys, left his phone, and is just walking with a handgun. FBI officials come forward, former FBI officials admitting that even foreign intelligence has targeted nuclear and nuclear rocket experts for years, people tied to these programs. I mean, of course, just look back at the Star Wars program and the missing individuals there, 22 bizarre deaths as part of the Star Wars program under the Reagan administration. So are these people being silenced? What the hell is going on here? Jay Anderson is the host of Project Unity on YouTube, and he joins us now. Jay, great to see you. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Clayton and Natalie. It's a pleasure to be here.
Pleasure to have you. Pleasure to have you. And, 10 scientists, 36 months now, zero explanations. I mean, autopsies that weren't allowed, cover-ups and vanishings. And there's no one's talking about it. I mean, we're talking about it, but where is the Trump administration? Where is Carolyn Levitt out at the podium demanding answers on all of this? Because is it because they know what's going on here? Is it because it's a tit for tat?
Well, a little bit like you just highlighted. One of the first things I'd point out is the incidents involving the killing and death and missing status of scientists that share connections through their respective fields, especially in the realms of national security and classified technology research, is not an unheard of thing by any means. A particularly famous case, which you just highlighted, is the 25 or so scientists and engineers connected to the UK defense contractor GEC Marconi. Now, many of those scientists back in the 1980s were connected, as you said, to the Reagan-era Star Wars defense initiative. Now, that was the goal at the time, to make nuclear missiles obsolete by building a system that could detect and destroy them before they hit the United States. And a string of mysterious deaths and suicides and disappearances within this network follows the kind of pattern you'd expect to see from a coordinated effort of some form to silence these people. And what we see here, with now 10 missing scientists, Stephen Garcia being the latest missing, a nuclear official, and all of the various names in this group of 10 were connected in one way or another into the realms of black budget technology, high energy physics, and even the search for extraterrestrial life, at a time of immense geopolitical instability, and at a time when the current administration of the United States has publicly voiced an interest and a desire in rendering their currently classified UFO-related intelligence declassified. So it makes me wonder if there are, elements within the murkier levels of private aerospace with loose connections to governmental programs who are concerned about, daylight breaking into their black projects. And although we can't be certain, much like the GEC Marconi incident in the 80s, we see a pattern here, and I don't think it would be right to ignore that pattern.
Can we surmise what kind of research will be thwarted with these deaths? I know we can't know, but can we surmise?
Well, I would say the killing of Professor Nuno Loureiro in 2025 is one of the biggest concerns and red flags for me. He was shot at his home, and he was widely regarded as a top-tier scientist in fusion physics. He was a leading plasma physicist and fusion researcher, and these are exactly the types of exotic energy and propulsion avenues that cross over into extreme national security secrecy and the potential for your life to be in danger if you were to divulge those secrets. Another example, General William McCaslin, who's been missing for well over a month now, I believe, he was revealed through the WikiLeaks emails targeting John Podesta to be a senior advisor on the UFO subject to none other than Tom DeLonge, the rock star celebrity who founded To the Stars Academy of Arts and Science and brought the likes of Lou Elizondo and Christopher Mellon and Jim Semivan, all of these various government, defense, DOD, CIA guys onto the scene as the public face of government UFO disclosure. So the WikiLeaks emails actually show that Tom was bragging to John Podesta about how General William McCaslin was one of his top advisors on the UFO subject. And so when you see the general disappear alongside several prominent scientists in the realm of exotic physics, plasma research, the search for extraterrestrial technosignatures, we can begin to see how a situation could be coordinated.
Is it a clue that when Professor Loureiro he was a Portuguese, and as soon as his death broke, it was spun by Zionists as an anti-Zionist killing, as an anti-Semitic death? And then that later turned out to be false. He was not targeted for being Jewish. I don't know that he even was. Is that this initial narrative spin that was picked up, is that a clue, do you think?
Well, I think Mossad, above all of the other intelligence agencies, has a pretty deep hand in the Black Project. So it wouldn't surprise me if narratives were being spun from that side of the water. But I can't speak to the exact accuracy of whether or not that was, part of a game plan. But it would certainly be part of the kind of, the rule book and the toolkit that's deployed by the intelligence agencies, especially by Mossad.
Okay.
What about the Chinese piece of this? We had Brandon Weichert on from the NatSec podcast, national security expert, a few weeks ago. He found that similar missings, vanishings were happening on the Chinese side. So that's why I sort of asked you at the beginning if this is like a tit for tat. Is China maybe at the heart of this? And then I want to follow up because, well, I'll put it as one big cornucopia question for you, Jay, which is, we have these secret space program collaborations. We've talked about them on our show at length with Russia, with China, working on these ARC projects and other things. And that collaboration is well known within that community. So when we have this kind of collaboration with the Chinese and the Russians on these secret space programs, the moon base and all of these things, why would we be killing each other's scientists if that is at the heart of it?
Well, I worry that it supersedes governments and nation states. I think that there was a time in the chronology back in, let's say, like the 1940s, 50s era, where a lot of this in terms of exotic energy, and especially when it starts to become related to the potential non-human technology, non-human biologics, all that kind of recovery discussion that we're seeing become very popular now, there seems to have been a time where this splintered off from government official research into the kind of murky depths of private aerospace. And a lot of the concerns, especially when it comes to black budget technology and breakaway technology, secret space programs, is that there is an element of this that's a transnational group, a private group that's had access to extremely advanced technology for a number of decades, and supersedes governments and nations, and maybe carrying out their own operations completely rogue of any sort of official, foreign policy. They're completely on their own in the jungle, so to speak. So there's a real concern that there is actually a breakaway from privatization, and that they're running the show in terms of doing these types of operations on, a global scale, making sure that people are silenced when they need to be silenced, which would explain why certain elements of teamwork that seem apparent on the world stage do not play out when you get into the kind of deep black and the classified world. But I do think that there is a genuine concern and a reality, especially when you start doing the research into what was happening with the electrogravitic studies in the 1950s, exotic energy research in the 1950s, the Cold War, all of the paranoia around that. There was a time where this seemed to splinter off from the official world. And I think the last president to really know that was President Eisenhower, and he actually warned of the military-industrial complex in a very, very famous end of presidency speech, where he just gave a long warning of the various elements of the military-industrial complex taking control far beyond the official remit of government. And so I think we have to be concerned about the potential for a breakaway rogue element that's doing these operations, if it is indeed an operation.
Yeah, there's too many similarities here, because you could look at some of these individuals. Oh, maybe they just had a really dark period in their life. They wandered off with a gun. Yeah. Something was going on in their life. But then when you have like General McCaslin, a 2-star general who was, by all accounts, really considered like a UFO gatekeeper, who then has this connection to Monica Reyes, who was on a hike with her friends, and she vanishes almost in thin air. They've never found her. She's standing there, and 2 of her friends were with her, and she just vanishes out of thin air. Like, what the hell? Like, what? So I guess you could have these like one-off situations. Someone's under stress. They had a bet. Something's going on here. But to have that happen, and they're connected, Monica Reyes and McCaslin, and they both go vanishing?
Well, this is the thing. When you bring up a mind map of everyone involved, the lines almost intersect completely with everyone involved, especially with General McCaslin, who sat on the Special Access Program Oversight Committee, the SAPOC, he was the executive secretary of the Special Access Program Oversight Committee, which just branches down into all of the black projects. So he was very aware of the most classified elements of the U.S. government's defense and research and, classified special access program, unacknowledged special access program world. So he, above all of the others, especially because of this WikiLeaks reveal through John Podesta's emails that, Tom DeLonge, I know Tom DeLonge's just a rock star and a celebrity, but he was legitimately connected to all of these people in the Pentagon. And the fact that he wasn't saying this publicly, but was bragging to John Podesta in the back channels on emails that, listen, General McCaslin is on my team and he's a senior advisor. He was there at the right time at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base and at Los Alamos National Labs during the Roswell kind of acquisition time. So it's very clear that someone like McCaslin, even if this isn't related to what he was doing in the UFO world, he certainly was involved in the UFO world. And, people being connected to him who were also missing. This is a pattern we can't ignore. And I'd also remind people when it comes to suppressing information that literally thousands of inventions, breakthroughs in various sectors have been actively suppressed by the US government under the Invention Secrecy Act of 1951. Literally thousands. We also have known cases of breakthrough technologies being halted through wet work or assassination. So a famous case of that being Stanley Meyer, the inventor of a water-powered car that
water energy
electrolysis.
Stanley Meyer,
and breaking down hydrogen bonds with a toroidal electromagnetic coil engine. And they seized his invention before he could even get it to the patent office. And then not long after that, he was found dead in the streets after running out of a cafe screaming, I've been poisoned, I've been poisoned. So, there's a precedent already set, established from the 1950s, of drastic action being taken in the so-called name of national security. And we may very well be seeing a similar situation unfold before us with this recent grouping of dead and missing scientists and high-ranking military with connections into exotic physics and classified research. I mean, it's something we need to keep in mind as all of this develops.
Great points.
Yeah.
Here, take a look at Jay's Twitter account here. Jay has, you were just on the Joe Rogan show. Hopefully you'll replace this soon up here with the Redacted. Hopefully, no, just joking. Just joking, but congrats on that. But I just wanted to scroll down a little bit here because of your work on the Peru story. And just wanted to kind of promote that for you. So your research here in this 2-hour-long documentary about
from black technology to ancient sites. I have many hats.
So tell us about this 2-hour documentary. How can people support you and check this out?
Metal.
Well, thank you so much for promoting that, by the way. I really appreciate that because it's not connected to this, but that's really awesome of you. You can check it out on X, guys, if you go on to the Project Unity. It's also on my YouTube channel. All of my different documentaries are on my YouTube channel, Project Unity. I'm very, very interested in the mysteries and harder to explain elements of ancient history, where when you start to look back at the mainstream historical narrative we've been taught, and you just examine with a bit more of a critical eye, you start to realize there are some serious problems with the way that we've just bundled things together into strange chronologies. And Peru and Egypt and a few other places that I've been to are key areas of the world where you just have incredible examples of architecture and stone lifting. It's huge, multi-tons that should not have been possible at the time. So I went out to Peru and I went out to Egypt and various other places. This particular one is in Peru, 2 hours,
subterranean
about 1 hour and 40 minutes long in total. And it's a feature-length 4K documentary, all fully filmed by me, going through some of the most incredible ancient megalithic sites in Peru. And so if that's something that you're interested in, that's one of the main subjects I focus on, as well as classified technology and the mysteries of the national security state. So I definitely appreciate any support from that. So thank you so much for highlighting that. Really appreciate that.
Amazing.
I love it. You're speaking my language. So.
Good. Well, we should keep in touch.
Absolutely. I would love to go on one of these adventures with you if the wife will let me. Actually, let's just do it. I don't need to ask permission. We're going to go.
You don't ask, you
good,
tell.
Yeah. Where are you?
That's right.
I'm with Jay. We're in Antarctica. Sorry, I'll be home next week. Jay, great to see you. Thank you so much for your perspective on this. Really appreciate it. And good luck with the documentary. Everyone should check it out. We'll have it linked up in the description as well. So thanks so much, Jay.
You're most welcome. Thanks for having me, guys. Take care.
Our pleasure. Our pleasure. Thanks so much. It's late over there in the UK, so thanks for staying up late with us. Okay, coming up, we're going to talk about, I don't know if you know something very bizarre happened on April 10th, just a few days ago, and some Wall Street billionaires and millionaires and the same sort of people who were involved with setting up the mechanisms so they could bet against the collapse of the U.S. economy in 2008. Well, the same thing just happened again, and that very same mechanism, or a slightly different mechanism, was just introduced on April 10th in order for them to make a lot of money off of what is about to happen. So I'm very concerned about this. I mean, hell, they made a whole movie about the last one, The Big Short, and we know what happened after the 2008 collapse is the very same thing about to happen again, and no one's talking about this. So we have a special economist on the show. David Morgan is going to be joining us to talk about that. But first, if you're a little older and you feel like, okay, I'm not going to be able to handle recovery anymore and bouncing back from a workout, Mars Men will enable you to change and feel the change from lower testosterone a lot easier. So I'm 49 years old, and suddenly everything that used to be easy wasn't. And you might feel like after a workout, like I've noticed this, like in my arms, like after a workout, like what is this pain? Why am I not recovering quickly enough? And then I can go back to actually working out like 48 hours later and still not have this pain from doing push-ups or pull-ups and all of these other things. Your body makes testosterone, but a lot of it gets locked up and it can't be used. And there's this protein called SHBG that basically handcuffs your testosterone. And I didn't know this at all. And certainly if you're young, you don't care. But if you get older, you're going to start to pay attention to this. So SHBG locks it up so you can't access it. It's like having money in the bank and you don't know how to access it. So Mars Men will actually unlock that for you. And it'll help you do all of that so you can take it consistently and it'll give you a crazy jolt. And it's not like caffeine. It's just steadier, more consistent energy, better focus. Workouts feel stronger. Again, recovery feels better. You just feel more like yourself. It's really fantastic. And so there's so much to talk about with Mars Men. I have like literally pages and pages of notes that I can tell you about this, but I just want to kind of give you the basics. For a limited time right now, listeners can get 50% off for life, plus free shipping, plus 3 free gifts if you go to mengotomars.com. If you take it consistently, you're going to notice a big change, and it's going to unlock something in your body that you forgot you had maybe 10 years ago. You're like, where did all that go? So it's also available on Amazon. You can go there as well and find it on Amazon. But try it right now. Go to mengotomars.com for 50% off 3 free gifts. And they'll ask about where you heard about them. And please support our show and tell them that our show sent you. mengotomars.com. Get 50% off for life, plus free shipping and 3 free gifts. Well, something really troubling is happening on Wall Street right now, and almost no one is talking about it. And so to keep it as simple as possible, because I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed, try to explain this as if I'm a 5th grader, I suppose, because basically some really big money people on Wall Street are building a new button that allows them to make a lot of money if another big part of the economy suddenly collapses. It reminds me a lot of 2008, where a few people saw the housing collapse coming, people that were getting mortgages without jobs, and they made billions of dollars when the housing collapse happened while the rest of the world suffered, myself included. Well, right now, that very same thing is happening, and we better pay attention to what's happening, but it's happening in a much different way. And that's why we wanted to bring on David Morgan, author of The Morgan Report, an economist. He's also the author of Second Chance, How to Make and Keep Big Money from the Coming Gold and Silver Shockwave, a must-read book. David, great to see you, and welcome to the show.
Well, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be on.
So, I understand that this is in your wheelhouse, but it's pretty darn complicated. And as I was looking through these notes over the weekend, when I was seeing these little bits and pieces of this story, I was trying to piece this all together. And essentially, a lot of the same mechanisms, it seems, that were unfolding during 2008 with these credit default swaps. I mean, no one even really heard of that term, and then they made a movie about it, The Big Short. Somehow they managed to make a movie about credit default swaps, and they actually made it interesting. Basically, people were betting big money that we were about to see a major mortgage collapse in the United States. And something seems to be happening again that just went into effect on April 10th, and some big money is going to be moving in a different direction. Can you maybe unpack what is going on here? And am I being a little hyperbolic or not really?
No, I think you're spot on. I'm going to go from like a very top view. I'm sort of a top-down analyst. I'll paint the big picture, hopefully in a succinct way, and kind of drill down to what you have spoken about, Clayton.
Yeah, and treat me like a fifth grader, because I pretend I'm in elementary school right now and educate me on this, because it's a little complicated.
Well, most people feel something is wrong economically, but they just can't define it. So inflation is not going away. It's embedded in the system, and the system requires debasement to survive. This isn't about predicting a collapse. It's about understanding the direction of the system. The core message is that sound money equals freedom. Throughout history, when money fails, freedom follows. Fiat currency system always end the same way: loss of purchasing power. Gold and silver are not investments first. They're money outside of the system. And as you know, if you don't hold it, you don't own it. This time it's different, but somewhat the same. Debt levels globally are beyond anything in history. Central banks are trapped. Rates can't stay high, but lower them fuels inflation. So they're caught between, as the old expression, the devil and the deep blue sea. They can't go either way. The market, in my view, studied view, will will not only see higher inflation, but interest rates commensurate with that, which means they're going higher, not lower, even though the Fed can set the discount window, the federal funds rate, and make that lower. The market may say, good for you, but we still require this kind of a rate in order for me to hold on to a dollar longer than, a week, a T-bill, T-note, or T-bond. Hope that makes sense. We can drill down on that. So people are waking up, just not financially, but politically and socially. And to turn it back over to you, Clayton, you're right. We're in a setup where the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. And this is a time in history over and over where this huge divide and the gap widens more and more. Where I hate to say it, but look, it's my job to tell it as it is. I tell them as I see it, especially on programs that have a reach like yours. That's revolution time. Not that it was inevitable, but certainly things are leaning that way, as we both know.
Yeah, we got these Moody's numbers. It's cut its outlook on U.S. BDCs from stable now to negative. You talk about the debasement of the currency and our inability to buy things. Our dollar is not, it's like you think about the Big Mac index, right? I think it's the Big Mac index when you look, internationally, like the cost, how much does it cost you to buy a Big Mac? And it's skyrocketing right now. So this is not going away. So how then are some of the same mechanisms being put in place on Wall Street that we saw with these credit default swaps in 2008? Like there were very smart people that saw what was coming and started to bet against the mortgage market. How are you seeing similarities to that right now with some of these mechanisms that these people are putting in place?
Well, what they do is, as you kind of alluded to, they take on, first of all, they see what's coming and they can manipulate the market. Secondly, they put in all kinds of financial instruments that give them great leverage. So you can have an ETF or, a 2-to-1 or a 3X situation. And lastly, they are working, the Wall Street system is set up for their benefit, not for yours. And the investment banks are the ones that underwrite most of these derivative products that are highly leveraged that give them an advantage. And so what they will usually do is put out information that's contrary to the direction they want the market to move. they load up during that time frame, and then they take it wherever they want. I mean, that's about as simple as I can make it. People say, well, wait a minute, that's a conspiracy theory. But basically, if you study history, the conspiracy side of things is where you should start. Isn't always perfect, but it actually leads to a much clearer trail of how things work. To sum it up actually more simply, most of the time, any journalist, be it a financial or such as you and Natalie, where you cover a broad base of things, if you follow the money, you're usually going to get closer to the truth than any other methodology.
Right. And so what sort of information are they putting out right now through their intermediaries like CNBC or Bloomberg or other individuals? What sort of information are they trying to push to the American people right now for us to believe, trying to force us to swallow that isn't true, do you believe?
Well, first of all, again, from the big picture, I think the one thing to bear in mind at all times is that all wars are bankers' wars. I mean, most of the news feed has to do around the war, especially Iran. Of course, the Ukraine thing continues. And the constant beat of the drum is Trump this, Trump that. And, he's about as wishy-washy as anyone's ever been in political history. And on that basis, saying something positive about oil will move the market up, saying something negative will move the market down, and they're front running those things. So what am I seeing? I'm seeing signaling from the insiders into the thought of which way is the oil market going to go, which way is the interest rate market going to go. And of course, they hold the cards. They know which way it's going to go because they can force the hand any direction they wish. And of course, when you especially see following the money, an outsized, let's say, options position that's, let's say, 10x of normal activity just before the White House makes a U-turn and all of a sudden the market goes the other direction. So am I seeing that? Yes. Can I quantify it exactly, Clayton? I won't. I don't want to get in trouble. But nonetheless,
right.
I think I've done a fair job of explaining it.
So the mechanism that they've now put in place that Wall Street has launched this time, like we talked about in 2008, it was the bets against the mortgage market. This time, it's now a way to hedge against trouble in the private credit market. And I know this can maybe go over some people's head, but betting that private credit, so the stuff that's not the big banks, the private credit is going to start to weaken, is going to start to plummet. And they're taking bets against private credit. Can you explain why they would bet against private credit? Like what specifically is happening there? What is private credit and why should the average American care?
Yeah. Well, I'm going to digress a bit here for you, but I was at the Money Show last year, and it was a panel at the very end of the Money Show. And I'm always there. Usually it's me and maybe one other that features, resource stocks, resources, but primarily gold and silver. And the panel was like the big picture, which you're talking about. And the guy to the right of me, and I give him credit, I can't remember his name, forgive me, but all he talked about was private credit and how what a big problem it was. But in private credit is loans made outside of the traditional banking system. And instead of a bank making loans, it's typically like an investment fund, a pension fund, a wealth manager, sometimes mid-sized company, private equity firms, those type of things. So in plain English, private credit is Wall Street being replaced. Private credit is Wall Street replacing the bank as the lender. So these firms, we'll say on the street, they can be off the street, they could be in Wisconsin, but they are firms that hold funds that can loan them out at exorbitant rates or for other purposes. And why it exists is because after the 2008 financial crisis, which is kind of the main theme that we're talking about here, regulators tightened the rules on banks. They required them to hold more capital, reduce risk, and lend more conservatively. And so private funds stepped in and took over that gap of people that were, let's say, excessive gambling on these derivative products.
So they stepped in and filled that gap for whether it's big real estate projects or otherwise, where the banks were now really kind of handicapped because of the regulations from 2008. So That sounded like a great thing, right? Capitalism. We could continue on. People could continue to build, continue to loan money. Money could continue to move. But now it seems like they're very concerned that that money is going to stop moving. Why would that money stop moving in private equity? And what does that mean for the average American?
I'm going to get to private equity, but first I want to make this statement. But there's nothing really wrong with taking a loan if it's for productive purposes. So in other words, if you borrow $1 and in your business you put that dollar to use and you produce, let's say, $1.20 out of that loan, then obviously that's a productive use of capital. Unfortunately, at the end of the great inflations, which we're now experiencing, what the federal government does is they borrow like $2 and they get like $1 worth of productivity out of it. In other words, the faster they're running, the further they're getting behind. That's true at the federal level. Now, I know you addressed private credit. What's happening in private credit is that reality is shining through. And the sunshine is shining on the fact that a lot of these loans were based on, one, people that were undercapitalized and couldn't pay it back. Two, projects that weren't worth doing in any way, shape, or form from the very beginning, i.e. the credit default swaps, which are bets upon bets that were in a mortgage situation with people that couldn't repay the loan. Similar situations here. So they're looking for higher yields, more return. And what has happened for a long time is that the banks, or let's say the private credit facilities, have said, oh, well, you can't pay me, Clayton. Well, don't worry about it. What I'm going to do is give you an interest-only loan you more money so that you can actually pay me the interest back that you owe me, but I've provided the money. How sick is that? But that's the system that we see at the very end. And is it all cases, David Morgan? No, it is not, but that has taken place.
So, in other words, it sounds very similar to 2008 in a lot of ways. Now, I guess it leads to me to the inevitable question, David, which is, then we were talking specifically about the housing crisis. A lot of people that didn't have jobs were able to get mortgages and the entire housing market collapsed. What types of projects have these people been getting money from private credit in order to build? In other words, as you pointed out, these were sort of based on sort of faulty promises, I guess. Is it commercial real estate? Is there one particular sector, or is it completely diverse and we don't have to worry about it?
Well, it goes basically on the hierarchy of investments across the board. So what's the number one investment worldwide that's been fungible? Well, not fungible, but been one of the best ever, and that's, of course, land. So real estate, improved or otherwise, that would be primary. But there's many others, like let's say a bridge loan for taking over a business. So let's say you're doing a merger, that type of thing. I mean, almost anything you could think of in the financial sector can be covered by private equity. But you also could take the big picture of where is the main amount of investments done, and that's primarily in real estate, although there's all kinds of things done. The main point that I think that our viewers need to understand is it's illiquid. You can't easily sell these. These are private loans, as I outlined. There is no open market for it. There's no daily pricing, and you're often locked in. So you made a loan to take over this other company, and the other company reneged on the deal or decided not to do it, or they found an escape clause or whatever. Now that's dead money. You can't do anything with it. And the market's masked. I mean, these loans are not traded. The prices are not visible. And if they fall, they're not necessarily reported because it's private. So perhaps you put in a $10 bill as an example, and it's really worth $5. It might carry on the books at 10, and they're not required to say anything other than, well, you put in 10, it's still at 10, when the real value, if you had to liquidate, is half that price.
That's fascinating. So these are not public banks. This is all private money that a lot of it is going to collapse, and they're not going to be able to gather up and have these loans wiped off the books. So the federal government, normally when you have one of these big banks having a problem, the Fed comes in and saves them. Do you think there's any backstop from the Fed or from the U.S. Treasury that they're going to come in and try to bail out all these private equity firms?
Yeah, well, let me compliment you. I think that's the best question you've asked, and you've asked a lot of good ones, in my opinion. Possibly, doubtful. These are private firms. Now, there's the who's in the zoo, my favorite expression. I mean, if they're buddy-buddy with certain investment bank is very, very tight with the Fed, one of their brethren is working at the Fed or close to it, you could see that happen. I mean, we saw it happen in 2008. We saw what happened to Lehman Brothers and Bear Stearns. I mean, Bear was taken out, no doubt about it. Lehman was there as well. So it's kind of a who not what situation. So I can't look you in the eye and say they will bail them all out or none will be bailed out. I think it'll be, again, favoritism, non-capitalism, not equal rights for all. Basically, if you know the right person, you might get subsidized for your failure, which of course is anti-capitalism. Remember, the right to fail and the right to succeed are the same thing in capitalism. In a true free market, if you do something well that provides a use to you in society, you benefit monetarily and otherwise. If you make a product that you think is the greatest thing since the Ripple and the bobby pin and it doesn't hit the market and you lose money, then you should lose money and move on.
Yeah. So I guess I'll get you out of here on this, David. How bad do you think this is going to be? And I'll circle back to like my average American question. The mom and dad that are taking care of their kids, send them to school. They work 2 jobs. They each have a job, just trying to put food on the table. Is this story going to impact them in any kind of appreciable way?
Yeah. When interest rates go higher, as I said earlier, and I believe they will, that will definitely put a lot of problems to the private equity sector, private funding. There will be less and less liquidity, which means defaults will continue and they'll go higher and higher. So the financials starting to see the cracks in this private system. From a sound money perspective, it's just another layer of financialization to keep the system going on a lie further than it should. It represents claims on future cash flow, but most of these things are not cash flowing. They're not real assets. They're gains, they're gambles. And so that depends on confidence and liquidity. There's less and less confidence and there's less and less liquidity. So basically private credit is inherently bad. It doesn't really serve a true purpose. It's not less transparent. It's very illiquid and it's vulnerable to a lot of stress, which you're going to see. It's a yield-driven market that grew out of easy money from these private credit facilities, and this thing is going to blow up badly. Is it going to be as bad as 2008? I'll just have to say it remains to be determined because no one knows exactly how big it is and what the cascading effects can be. A lot of people think, well, look, I don't own a stock. I've never owned a stock. I don't have a stock account. The stock market doesn't affect me. It does. The stock market affects everyone because of the overall health of the United States, let's say, corporate entities. So it's all tied together. It's all connected. And something that appears to be benign relative to you living in Idaho and some big facility blows up in Florida, well, that doesn't affect me. You don't know. Maybe your bank actually got a swap with that other bank. I'm not trying to go drill down too far, Clayton. I'm just trying to explain that no one is exempt from these type of large system failures.
David, thank you so much for joining us. The author of the book Second Chance, How to Make and Keep Big Money from the Coming Gold and Silver Shockwave. Great to have you on the show, David. Really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks, David. And when you think about what David's talking about there, gold and silver and precious metals, that's why we're big advocates of it, because as these oil transactions are settled now through the Strait of Hormuz, China moving ships through and settling these transactions in the yuan, and more pressure now for other countries to do the same. This is the intentional, as he mentioned at the very beginning, like the intentional degradation of the U.S. dollar. So do you want your family's future tied to the intentional degradation of the U.S. dollar? Interest rates going up again. Housing right now has come to a complete standstill. How many of you guys see like a lot of for sale signs right now in your neighborhoods? Because normally April and May, like what is today? What is today? Today's April 14th. Today is April 14th. Normally right now, April and May is like the hottest housing market every year in the United States. because people are waiting for the school year to kind of wrap up. They want to sell their house, they want to move, and they want to have the summer to kind of get unpacked and deal with everything. So people don't like to move during the school year, right? That's just how it is. But everything is ground to a halt because now mortgage rates have gone up. Mortgage rates have gone up since the start of this war. They were on their way down, and then the war starts, Israel's war starts, mortgage rates go back up in the United States, like private credit drying up, so many things tied to what's going on right now with the destruction of the U.S. dollar. Do you guys believe it's intentional? President Trump has said he wants the destruction of the U.S. dollar. He wants to devalue it. He says devalue, I say destruction. But he wants to devalue the U.S. dollar on purpose because that'll bring manufacturing back to the United States. It's just exactly what China did, right? Devalue the yuan, manufacturing floods into China. So you need that, right? So do you think... Well, Trump says we need a weaker U.S. dollar on purpose. And then as a result of that, you're seeing potential for gold to hit $10,000 an ounce, silver to continue to skyrocket. I think silver at this hour is about somewhere in the $70 an ounce range. You hear David talking about over $100 an ounce for silver, even higher than that. So all that to say, please, please, please be smart with your money. Protect your family right now as we head into these uncertain times and the further destruction of the U.S. economy that seems to be unfolding thanks to Israel's war in Iran, and we're part and parcel in it. So our friends at Lear Capital, if you are interested in investing in precious metals, get on the phone with them. They're an American company. Call them. No pressure at all. They'll even send you a free gold kit right in the mail. I have one right here. Just a packet. It has all sorts of great information inside of it. You can sit down with your spouse, loved one, whatever, and go over it and see if it's a fit for you. Maybe you never work with them at all. That's totally fine. But at least have that phone call. Financial education is powerful. And maybe you've got an old 401k laying around that you had from a previous employer, and it's just sitting there in the stock market. They can actually help you convert it to a self-directed IRA. I use my self-directed IRA to invest in real estate, precious metals. So inside of my self-directed account, Wall Street doesn't want you to know that a self-directed IRA even exists, by the way. They do not want you even dabbling in it because then they don't make their money off of it. That's the beauty of a self-directed IRA. There's no middleman making all sorts of money off of it. Just you are making money. You want to buy precious metals inside your self-directed IRA? Great. You want to invest in real estate? Great. You want to buy stocks? Great. You want to buy crypto? You can do all of it. Anyway, Lear Capital will help you set that up and get it set up and running if you want to. Just give them a call, 1-800-613-3557 to get your free guide, or just go to learredacted.com is the website and tell them we sent you. They're a great American company. They'll actually talk to you on the phone, and you can receive up to $20,000 in free bonus metals with a qualified purchase. All right. Yeah, and wages are stagnant as well, D-Spirit says. Do we fix this yet, guys?
Did you push one?
I did. Yep. It's pushed.
Okay, yeah. So for some reason, it's not loading them.
All right.
Even though I refreshed.
So let me see.
Okay.
LH Daniel. Here's one.
Oh, there it goes.
There it went. All right. Sorry for the other one that didn't pop up there. LNJ Daniel, thoughts on depopulation? Well, that's a big question. But it's absolutely happening. I mean, this is exactly what David Icke has been talking about. Catherine Austin Fitts, Whitney Webb, right? This is a part. And by the way, they're telling us this. So this isn't like conspiracy territory. Bill Gates has literally told us this. These globalists have told us this. Harari, literally, I think in a speech in front of the World Economic Forum, openly said this about the population. So they absolutely want this. That's part of their agenda. It's part of their Agenda 2030, which is it is about depopulation. That's exactly what it is. And it's about control. That's what the control grid is. Move us towards a central bank digital currency. And of course, have fewer people that they have to control. That's exactly what it's all about. So that's just a kind of high level overview of it. Soul Jar says, what's with the anti-Semitism? Oh, you mean about Netanyahu? Oh, F that. anti-Semitism because of a corrupt war criminal? I don't care what faux religion he pretends to be. Who cares? Anti-Semitism. Get out of here with that crap.
Well, it was a smiley face. I think he was joking.
Yeah, I know. Okay. Oh, okay. I missed the smiley face. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry. Okay. Thank you, Soljar. Sorry. I get your joke. You feel the same way I do about Netanyahu, greatest criminal in the world right now.
Well, the thing is, you never know if somebody's serious about it. You know what I mean? So it's like,
oh yeah.
It's like the go-to now.
Yeah, and just a reminder to people that Netanyahu is not like the Pope to Jewish people. It's right. He's not like the head of Judaism.
Right.
He's the Prime Minister of Israel.
So if there's a guy named John, and he's a total dick, and he just robbed a lady, and I'm like, look at that dick. He just robbed that lady. That guy should go to jail. He's a criminal. And then I find out later he's Jewish. Like, what, I'm not allowed to criticize the criminal who just robbed the lady? I don't give a rat's ass if he's Jewish. I don't care at all.
Am I anti-Semitic if I have bacon with my eggs? Like, come on.
Yes. Everything is anti-Semitic.
Yeah.
Everything is. You're not allowed to say. Remember the Times of Israel had that opinion piece last week that said, if you say that Israel brought the United States into war against Iran, it's not only wrong, it's anti-Semitic. Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah. And like that dipshit Mark Levin, he just posted a tweet. He actually retweeted Tucker Carlson's interview about October 7th and the foreknowledge that they had about what was coming on October 7th. And I just thanked Mark Levin. I just tweeted. I said, thank you so much for retweeting the truth about the October 7th attacks. It's really important that people understand all about the stand-down orders that were issued that day and why for 8 hours they didn't do anything. And why, by the way, and at the heart of it, which really, really troubles me, like obviously the innocent people being killed and the back and forth, that was horrible. And when Israel killed all their own people in those cars, that was horrible as well. I think more horrible than all of that is the fact that you had these like young girls, these young IDF soldiers. I think most of them were like fresh out of academy or whatever, like 20, like very young, who were working on those outposts along the border. And they were used as cannon fodder. I was speaking to an Israeli like last week about this, and who said the same thing. Like, that's what really bothers. Like, if Israelis are upset about October 7th and what Netanyahu and the government knew about that, the fact that they let these young IDF soldiers to be out there on purpose to die as cannon fodder, they knew it was coming, and they sacrificed their own young soldiers to be killed.
Yeah, I think Mark Levin doesn't really know what the Barbara or the Streisand effect is, but that's it in full force right there.
I know. I thanked him for it. Let me, what a dipshit this guy is. Let me see if I can find my tweet here.
Yeah, I just read it.
Oh yeah, here it is. Yeah, here's my tweet I just posted. I said, because he says, woke Reich crackpot traitor Tucker has the real story behind October 7th, 9/11, World War II, war with Iran, unhinged lunatic and bigot. Then he retweeted the interview about October 7th and the foreknowledge that the Israeli government had. So thank you. And I just said, thanks for retweeting the truth, Mark. More people need to know about the stand down orders on October 7th. Thanks for bringing awareness to it. So thank you. Yeah. You can follow me on X. I'm over there on X, Clayton Morris on X, if you want to follow me there. And then, of course, let me just click off the screen here. Let me find just make sure I've got our main channel here.
Redacted news.
Yeah. Oh, look, Redacted News is following me. That's great.
That's pretty impressive.
Yeah. So, yeah, you can follow.
You read their newsletter?
I even read their newsletter. Yeah, maybe that's why they follow me. Like these guys. That's certainly a fatter.
Yeah, they can't even find me on Twitter.
That's definitely a fatter version of me. That's like a 5-year-old photo right there. Natalie looks the same, but I look like a fatter version of me, I think.
We need to put you with the black T-shirt on with those guns showing.
You can definitely see the like chipmunk cheeks in that photo, I think. I think that's like from 2020. That must have been when I was like eating all kinds of food during the fake pandemic.
You guys need to go do a photo shoot and get new photos because you both look better.
I guess. Plus, I have more gray now too. Yeah. So let's see. Because free speech.
I still in all my profile stuff. I still have my profile images when I was like 34, and I still use it and everything because I'll be damned if I'm taking another headshot. Screw that noise.
I know. Yeah, I was on your OnlyFans the other day, and your profile photos like from a few years ago.
Yep. So are all the videos.
Can you put the super chats back on the screen? Important, Clayton and Natalie. Watch Richard Medhurst's podcast of April 11th, the petro gas dollar, the secret U.S. story behind the Iran war. Thank you, Snowy. Yeah, I mean, it's something we've been talking about at length here, which is the petrodollar. If you understand now, and Pete Hegseth about 2 weeks ago came out and did his entire speech about the North American, U.S. control of North America, and the whole plan, and they've publicly said it, is that, well, we won't really need Saudi Arabia and the U.S. petrodollar with Saudi Arabia. We don't really need what's going on over there. We're going to, now that we have so much oil and natural gas in the United States, we don't have to rely on Saudi Arabia for the petrodollar. It'll be the American petrodollar. That's what's happening right now. And you're seeing President Trump tweeting and pushing, hey, any of these tankers that don't want to deal with the Strait of Hormuz, come on over here. Come into the Gulf of America and we'll fill you up. Pay twice as much for it, but hey, we'll blow up your pipelines too, like we did with the Nord Stream pipeline. And Germany was happy to pay 3 times as much for liquefied natural gas from America on ships rather than just getting it through its pipeline from Russia. They'll pay 3 times as much, and they'll do it willingly. Stupid Europeans. Because we have total control over you. I'll see that seems to be changing. Clayton looks like Brian Ferry. Can you put the super chats on the screen? There we go. Brian Ferry. Do I? Is that a compliment or?
I don't even know who that is.
Brian Ferry, the singer-songwriter, right? Is that who we're thinking of? I don't know. Do you think that looks like?
I mean, I can see how you get there, but it's kind of
looks like a
long and winding road.
Kind of has like a little small mouth, though. I don't know about that. And he's also 80 years old. Is this the one you're talking about? A lot of people think
you have a great mouth, so.
Roxy Music frontman. I don't know. I don't know about that.
I'll never forget that comment. Somebody said you and Natalie have really nice mouths.
Yeah. Doom and gloom gets clicks. Humongous shift. How do you guys feel about that? It is true, sadly. I mean, unfortunately, our show covers a lot of doom and gloom, unfortunately. Like, I wish I could just do a show where it's like, hey, there's nothing wrong. Tune in, like the title, the YouTube title is Nothing Wrong in the World.
Like John Krasinski's, what was that? Better News or whatever he did for a while?
Good News or something like that?
Yeah.
I mean, I'd love a day of just nothing but like us reviewing like puppy and kitten videos.
Right.
Yeah. It's like, wow, Trump listened to the people today and gas prices went down and no new war started. We made peace with China. We made peace. Russia's now an ally and China's an ally. And
tomorrow,
here's a puppy of a corgi.
Tomorrow's live stream, we should title the show, "The World is Fine, There's Nothing Wrong." We should just see how many people show up. See how many people show up. They're like, oh, well, I guess everything's fine.
Guess I'll go outside.
Yeah. I just noticed my gas prices just went to $8 a gallon, but everything's fine. I can't put food on the table.
It's like Ready Player One. When they shut down on Tuesdays or whatever, Tuesdays and Thursdays, they're like, well, we're going to, everybody go outside. That's.
Yeah. I need to wear
And I watched the movie, not read the book, so you guys can, do whatever you want.
You should try reading the book.
The movie is terrible. Ready Player One, the book.
Yeah.
Ready Player One, the book is one of my all-time favorite books. It's just so much fun, and it hits me in the nostalgia 1980s feeling when times were simpler. the world was better.
Yeah, I think I will read it, but I enjoyed the movie, but I think maybe it's because I didn't read the book. Like that's how I enjoy a lot of movies.
Yeah, because I mean the whole
first.
The whole solving the first key by just driving backwards was absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, you know, that was like a Steven Spielberg choice or something. Like, come on, guys.
Yeah, come on.
I'm lucky it's not
No
Golf
joust.
of Trump.
See, now you guys are ruining the book for me.
You're not going to read the.
You'll never read it anyway.
You should just listen to the audiobook. Listen to the audiobook.
Depends who narrates it,
Yeah,
Steven
there you go.
Spielberg or
I have no idea. The book is page turn. I couldn't.
Yeah, I read it on a flight from Indiana to Oregon. I read the entire book on a single flight.
Yeah, I read it like in 2 days, I think. I'm trying to find the name of our show.
it's called Redacted.
No, I know. Thank you. I'm trying to find our live stream from today.
Just go to the channel.
Yeah, but then it'll show the video and start playing it, and I don't want to do that. So,
Oh,
Yeah.
gotcha.
oh, here it is. Well, it is playing here anyway, but
I have it muted.
okay. Trump's Strait of Hormuz blockade failure. There's nothing clickbaity about it. That's exactly what it is. And a 10th scientist goes missing. That's exactly what the show is about today. So
This is very meta. We're looking at the.
yeah, we're looking at ourselves on my laptop.
When does this happen?
in the
This happens
show?
now.
Yeah, you're looking at now.
Oh, that was one of my favorite. Oh, I love these Bushisms. Someone in the chat says, we're working hard to put food on our family.
Food on our family.
Did you ever remember when President George W. Bush was like, a lot of Americans are working hard to put food on their family. I think that was yeah.
Was he also the one that when he was like talking to that guy that was like working 3 jobs, he's like, just how amazingly American is that? The dude's all like,
Yeah, that was a woman.
I don't want to be
Only
working.
in America can you have 3 jobs.
Yeah. It's truly an American thing. Lion and the Lamb
We don't
says,
like it.
Ready Player One was a great movie. We'll check out the book. I highly disagree with that. The book is phenomenal. The book is one of my favorite novels of all time, especially if you love the 80s and you love like playing video games in the 80s and you love just growing up in the 80s, amazing music, all of that. It's an incredible book.
Lion and the Lamb, I'm with you. I'm with you there.
Joe says lazy bastard. Not reading the book.
Well,
Eric Trinkline says, are you familiar with Dr. Shiva Ayyadurai and his TFH movement, and also his run for Senate and success in getting into the presidential ballot? I've heard of Dr. Shiva Ayyadurai. In fact, he's been on the show many times, and I could text him right now and say hello. Yes, in fact, we just did a deep dive interview with him, I think during the holidays, or no, maybe it was like January or something.
It was somewhere around there, somewhere around the holidays.
Yeah. Did you know that he was married to Fran Drescher? Did you know that?
oh, he's not anymore?
I did not know that.
Oh, maybe he still is. I don't think he's married to her anymore.
Oh.
But he's a truth teller. Yeah, he's been on the show. Let's see.
Depends on what you consider truth. You know, if you're into all those like chemtrail and flat earth stuff, you know, you're...
Someone said you guys are less doom and gloom than other channels I watch. Well, thank you. I mean, as someone in the chats just said, that's called journalism, the truth. We don't have we don't have an agenda here on the show. We are vehemently anti-war on this show, and America first. I would love, you know what I would love? I wish I could have done this show during the period before actually, that's not true. I was going to say, I wish I could have done the show in the period before 9/11, like when George W. Bush became president. That period, and then all we had was Gary Condit. You remember that story? Congressman Gary Condit. And the disappearance of, what's her name? That was the only story, like all summer long. And then 9/11 happens in September and everything changed. But it was like there was nothing happening in the news. I remember the Montauk Monster was another story that summer. That's it. Montauk Monster and Gary Condit. And there was nothing to talk about. And yet they still had 24-hour news channels, CNN and Fox News, and they were like wall-to-wall coverage of Gary Condit. Was it Chandra Levy? Chandra Levy, right? And then the Montauk Monster, which I love that story.
Yep, they sure loved if anybody sneezed in China, it was some kind of avian flu. They sure did love that. That was just anytime, you get weeks of that. Yep.
I was saying I wish I could have done the news then, because then I could have just not done it and just been like, hey guys, sorry, we're just not there's nothing to cover, so we'll just end the show. But now that I think about it, there was actually a lot going on during that period. There were quite a few signs that they were planning 9/11 ahead of time, and that we knew about it and were helping to facilitate it. So I eat my words, because actually I would have loved to have gone back and covered the news then, because here on this show we could have called out these signs. False flags.
And we could have done it before YouTube would have suspended us.
Yeah.
Because they weren't doing that.
And I think definitely a difference though was like back then the things that happened were shocking. They felt newsworthy. Now it's like it just seems like it's Tuesday. Like, oh, who we bombed who? Oh. What day is it? I thought we didn't bomb them until Wednesday. Oh no, I guess we were a day early, huh?
How about a show or at least a segment on Tina Peters confined in a Colorado prison? Yeah, I mean, the fact that Trump still hasn't pardoned her. Fact that she's still locked away for calling out the fraud in the election. Like, what?
And even he called out the fraud in the election. So
was she federally charged, or was she charged by a state?
I think that's a good question. I don't know what her. So it might be Colorado.
Because elections are state, and so
I think it was Colorado.
Unless it was a federal. So he can't pardon her.
He's called for it, I think, but I don't know that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you've got that crazy, batshit crazy attorney general of Colorado. Attorney general? Yeah, and the Secretary of State. So good luck with that. Substack of Heidi. How about a shout out? I have a Greater Israel piece. Who would make Scott Ritter lose his mind worse than today? All right, check it out. Substack of Hadi, Hadi. Blockbuster says Trump is the best president ever. I don't know. Have you met?
By what metric?
Right, like what? Yeah, exactly. What metric? Because have you met Theodore Roosevelt, my favorite president?
Like the global warming thing. He's the best president since when?
Yeah. What about Warren Harding? Andrew Johnson.
What about Buster Douglas?
What about Mr. Woodrow Wilson?
Yeah, Woodrow Wilson.
It is the Woodrow. I can't even say his name. The Woodrow Wilson Appreciation Month, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, he got us into the Fed, right? He lied us into a war in World War I. I mean, Woodrow Wilson, come on.
He must have been a friend to Israel.
Before Israel existed.
Yeah.
Well, they knew it was going to exist. I mean,
Corey the Crow says it's all bread and circuses. We are the clowns. Yeah.
Indeed.
We already answered that one. That probably got Ritter terminated shortly. Don't say that. Natalie's uncomfortable with Scott's rant. Probably. I mean, she.
Well,
but mostly they don't call them comfortable truths.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's also because there are certain platforms that don't appreciate certain things, and so that was mostly the worry. Was
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying.
All right. Well, my Phillies start playing in about an hour.
It's soccer season?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Has been for months.
Huh.
Play the Cubbies.
I think.
See if my Phillies
I thought the moon was in retrograde.
Clayton, when are you interviewing Alex Jones?
We did.
We did a few weeks ago.
We did, yep.
Months.
Yeah.
A couple months ago.
I guess it was, a few months ago now. I would love to have Alex on.
I'd like to have him on now because of the things that have changed since we had him on.
Yeah.
He was kind of still carrying the pail a bit when we had him.
Yeah, he was definitely carrying the water for Trump. He says, I wasn't carrying, but he was. And I think he's admitted he was for a while. That's the thing. I think he was one of those people that's like sort of given him a pass, and it's understandable. Like, you like Trump. Trump's always been nice to my family, right? He called my dad after my dad's heart surgery. I would bring that up. I've interviewed Trump, I don't know, dozens and dozens of times over the years. He's always been kind. But that doesn't absolve him from my criticism of going to war on Netanyahu's behalf and putting Americans in harm's way when you promised us that we would have no more Middle East wars. Two of those things can coexist. And
that you would put America first.
Yeah. So I'm
pretty simple.
But there were all these people giving him a pass, kind of like there's these people around Trump that are driving him, and he doesn't have any agency over his own thought. He's being pushed in these directions, and I can't stand that, because he is a human being. He's the president of the United States, and if he's being blackmailed by Netanyahu, as Tucker pointed out, and as Scott Ritter was saying, then that's of course a major problem. But he still has agency. He's still a human being. He can still say, no, we're not doing that. He'll probably get enormous pushback, and he'll have probably a coup within the deep state. But so it is. So be it.
And then Israel would release the files that they have.
Yeah. Please interview Casey Pusht. Okay. Give Alex Jones another IQ test. Yeah, that was funny. The JP Sears thing.
Yeah.
Trump is all mouth. He needs to keep the markets propped up. Well, he always makes these announcements right before the markets open, or, so he doesn't, he can avoid all these problems, right? Yeah, I'll get AJ back on. Ritter is rightfully mad at this holy war. Yeah. Everyone should be. Alex hasn't done his show in a few days. Is he off? I don't know. We all need a day off. We all need a week off from time to time. That's for sure. Can I bring on Brian Berletic? I think we had him on. Yeah, I like Brian. I haven't seen his stuff in a while. Scott has a right if you're an American patriot and are you furious you get called an anti-Semite? Exactly. I don't give a shit about Israel at all. I care about this country, and I care about the men and women who live in this country. And so if that makes me some sort of a bigot, I also don't care about Bangladesh. Like, I care about the people who live there. I want them to be prosperous. I want them to have clean water, great health, happy families.
Don't forget Switzerland while we're at it.
I don't care about Switzerland. I want the people that live in Switzerland to be happy and prosperous, to live a full life and have love in their hearts and their families. I want them to have a busy day of work and come home and spend time with their kids. Like, I want that for everybody. I want that same for my friends that live in Tel Aviv. I want those people to be happy and prosperous, but I don't want the United States doing the bidding of another country. So the same would be said of if Brazil had us by the balls. I would say the same freaking thing. I would say the same thing of Russia. So I don't give a shit. And if you want to call that anti-Semitic, I don't know. I don't give a shit. I don't care.
I mean, that does sound pretty anti-Semitic.
Did you see, by the way, just saying goodbye here, but did you guys see the S4 documentary? The Bob Lazar S4 documentary that just came out on Amazon Prime? Holy smokes. Hey, Simon, if you're watching, I would love to have Bob on the show. I would love to have him in studio. That would be a dream. I'll go to him. I don't care. I know that Jesse, what's his name, just had him on.
Waters?
No. But the S4 documentary, how many of you have seen it? It's to kind of any skeptic out there. Like once you see this documentary, like skepticism will evaporate from your brain.
Yeah, it's on my list. I really want to watch it, but I haven't had time.
It's so damn good. All right, everyone. Thank you, guys. Hey, we should mention we have a daily newsletter. Redacted.inc is the place to go to sign up. It's totally free. And it'll be delivered to your inbox first thing in the morning, tomorrow morning. So sign up. Redacted.inc is the place to go. Click on newsletter at the top. You'll receive a welcome email. You have to confirm it in your email because it might go to your spam folder, your junk folder. Just click the link in your confirmation email and you'll receive it on Wednesday morning. And we will be back here tomorrow. And the title of our show tomorrow will be The World is Fine. There is nothing to see here. No, we should actually try that and see how many people show up.
But just to keep people on their toes, we should spell CSEA.
CIA. There's nothing to CIA here. The world is fine. Nothing to CIA here. We'll see about that. Yeah. G. Fontes, one more. He says, I like Clayton, not throwing an emotional fit over the mention of Israel, as they've been used as more effective psyop than Trump derangement syndrome. It's true. Well, it's all a psyop, isn't it? Have a great night, everyone. Really appreciate it. And we will see you back here tomorrow at 4 p.m. Eastern time. Phillies are playing in about 40 minutes. So go Phils.